Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to RETROVISION and our review of the 1969 Eurovision Song Contest, which took place in the Teatro Real in Madrid. I'm very pleased to welcome our panel tonight. Please say hello to Tom.
Good evening, Andy. How are we this evening?
We're very well, thank you very much, and looking forward to an evening of Spanish loveliness.
I've splashed out on a red tie because red is on the Spanish flag.
And on the other side over here, we've got Ewan. Hello, Ewan. Ewan is from ESC Insight and our resident expert.
Hello, Yorpa, Theo Alpa calling.
Buenos
That's
Aires.
as far as my Gaelic lesson in Duolingo has got me so far.
Okay.
Hello, Europe. This is Scotland calling. I think I've got that's the most important phrases down pat. They've also told me how to ask for iron brew tea and coffee. So I'm set for the pressure when Scotland makes its debut.
Excellent. Well, and a special welcome to Luke Davis, who's joining us on RETROVISION for the very first time. He's now a regular panelist on ESC Fan TV. Luke, you're from Cardiff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you know something about a Welsh entry into Eurovision. Of course, Wales is now taking part in Junior Eurovision, but they almost tried to take part in the senior event. Luke, tell us about that.
Well, first of all, not so far, Andy, not so far Europe. Good evening, all. Yes, now, interestingly... Yakida, Dayan. Wales, it did try their luck in '69 when BBC Cymru Wales actually started the Gana Gymru Song Contest, which was meant as the national final for Wales. But unfortunately, at that time, BBC policy said you could only enter as a sovereign country and not as a sovereign state. So Wales were denied that place at the Eurovision. Their entry that year, which, as Ewan can agree, I agree with what Ewan's reaction to that, which of course Junior Eurovision they've done in the future, but that's another story, of course. Now I listened to their entry from Gana Gymru, which was sung by a lovely lady called Megan Jones. Now this was called Iau Gymru. Sorry, I should say Margaret Williams to be precise. And it's sort of it has elements like Patricia Brereden's All mixed with Austria's entry of 1962, meaning it's not really in time with one another. It's more of a backwards entry. And I agree with what you said, Andy, earlier. It could have done well in the 50s, but I think as a debut entry, we probably would have seen Wales getting the dreaded Neil Poir at this contest.
Excellent. And putting the contest into some contemporary context, 1969 was the year of Woodstock, the Abbey Road album. Yoko and John Lennon were in bed in Amsterdam. We got the first man on the moon, and Richard Nixon was in power in the United States. And Eurovision was trailing behind the time musically, as it did throughout the 60s. But nevertheless, we loved it. So let's have a quick roundup of the 16 songs in the Eurovision Song Contest 1969. So we're starting with Phil and Michelle and the Yugoslav entry.
I don't think his beard was his natural colour. That was my suspicion. It looked a bit dodgy, that beard. I thought it wasn't too bad. But in our house, if you sing in a different language, you used to get an extra point. So him singing in every language, by default, he should have won.
He was basically, the song was Greetings to the World, and he was basically just saying good morning to everybody in several different languages. But yeah, it was okay as an opener, but I don't think he was going to go anywhere.
No, I just thought the song was pretty bad, but I loved his enthusiasm and I really liked his suit.
Ah, yes. There was lots of excitement in the Colours wardrobe in 1969. Colour television had only been introduced to Eurovision the previous year. Moving on to song number 2, I was speaking to Tom about this, and I said I thought it was like watching paint dry, but Tom said,
I said,
on the contrary.
Of course, it's not like watching paint dry. It's worse than watching paint dry. No, it's. Do you know what? It's waltzy. It's catchy. Do you know what the thing is? I mean, Romuald had 3 Eurovision entries. This was his second attempt. I mean, personally, I think he should have stuck with Monaco, which is apt because I think he's coming up very shortly. But the thing is, he came 3rd with Monaco. Then he's gone across to Luxembourg. They only came 11th, only got 7 points. Went in with Monaco, 1974. Boom, back up to 4th. Know what side your bread's buttered on.
Moving swiftly on, the singer for Monaco was quite precocious.
I thought, why is he dressed like a weird blue vicar? Yeah, they must have started running out of people already to enter the Eurovision Song Contest and just got some young lads to come along. I thought it was very expressive, but it was a really emotional performance. I thought it had a cracking voice for a young lad. He did really well to be on the TV doing the Eurovision. He also got an extra point as well for having an accordion.
Yeah.
As well.
We
Yeah.
like an accordion.
We like an accordion. Yeah.
The song was about him telling his mum that he dreamt about being a soldier and how excited he was. And then by the end of the song, he decided he didn't want to be a soldier. He wanted to stay with his mummy.
No,
which was probably a good idea.
I want to be a fireman, mummy. Well, that's it. It's a lad.
Moving on to Ireland and the first instance of a singer wearing their country's colours.
The wages of love, the wages of love.
Oh, the wages of love. Oh, it was bright, it was catchy, it was Orville the Duck before its time. I mean, let's face it, this outfit was green, wasn't it? Not just green, but proper green. Do you know what? It was amazing. I thought that was a fantastic song. Very bouncy, very lively. I just loved it. If only I couldn't have actually kept on expecting Keith Harris to come on halfway through.
Right. And we're staying with Tom, the winner of San Remo. Thank you. We've got a fire alarm going off. A fire alarm in RETROVISION.
All right.
That's all right. We got a 12-year-old fireman who's ready to come and help us.
From Monaco.
Yeah,
with love.
Meanwhile, Eva Zanicki is singing about the biggest white tears. Tom,
let's be honest. I mean, this was an amazing ballad. Don't let it put you off that I thought this had slight undertones. You could hear the same chorus movements of Ante de Agis, Portugal's 97 entry. Just in the hint of the chorus a little bit, but I've always been a fan of that anyway. And do you know what?
Sorry, are you saying that the Italian song from 1969 ripped off the Portuguese song from 1997?
No, I'm just saying that in my own listening, the Portuguese obviously stole it. It's why they got 0 in 1997. It was anthemic. It was bold. It was very impressive. And do you know what? I actually did some research into Iva, and I found out that she was the only female to win the San Remo Festival 3 times, which I thought actually was quite stunning. And she's now an MEP. She's had a very long, very, very varied career. She's even hosted the Italian Price is Right, and being the only female to actually have done so. There we go. Fascinating.
You've really done your homework.
Of course I have.
You've really done your homework. And we're moving around the board now. Luke, you're going to tell us about the Swedish entry.
Yes, Judy Min Van by Tommy Körberg. I've got to say, I first of all, I think Sweden in the 60s were probably one of the most underrated countries. Well, I'd say more underrated than now, actually, because they really showed what genre was. They really gave music their true identity. I thought Tommy gave a fab performance. It was near enough a song that you would hear on 60s radio. But I do think it was a little bit ahead of its time. Interestingly, though, the lyrics, I've realised, were written by the same one who wrote Diggy Loo Diggy Lee. So it's sort of someone's first attempt at writing a Eurovision, and Tom's got the moves as well.
But does he have the shoes?
He didn't have the shoes. No, he had a very
No, I mean Tom.
Oh,
Tom, shoes.
We know
No one wants to see my feet, Ewan.
So let's move on from Judy to Jennifer Jennings, Michelle, and Phil.
Yeah, he had better Lego hair than the Swedish man. I love this song. I really did. I really enjoyed it. But I thought it was a shame that he looked like an insurance salesman.
See, I thought it looked like Pete Murray, Radio 2 DJ.
Luke is the only person here who's going to get that reference.
Pete Murray was the Eurovision commentator.
Yeah, he was commentating that year, wasn't he, Luke? Luke, was it 69 he was commentating?
I think he was doing on radio that year, but he was on
Pete
TV.
Murray, yeah, he was on the radio.
Yeah, Pete Murray did in 77.
Yeah. UK commentators, because Pete Murray was Radio 1 that year. Colin, our good old friend Colin Lewis is doing score, and Michael Aspel was doing the TV.
How many of those are out of jail?
Oh, wow.
I didn't think we were talking about the 1967 contest, Andy.
Okay,
or 71 in that matter.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
Or 74. Some for Europe.
Moving on.
Right, at least. I'd just like to say before I hand over to Luke to tell us about Switzerland. This is my favourite song of the contest this year.
It is, and I've got to say that if any country was robbed of a victory this year, controversially, I am going to say Switzerland. This was bouncy. It was upbeat. Paolo, she really, looked as if she was having a fun time on stage. But of course, when she came back 11 years later to do Cinema, I mean, both entries I love, but I think if there was a winner in 69, they should have really given it to Switzerland.
Well, just ditch the top four.
Well, yeah, because if they thought, we can't decide who the winner is, let's just go to the next one.
Let's have a little talk about the staging. So, how on earth did Salvador Dali come to end up involved in Eurovision? Do you think it had anything to do with the dictator?
I think the whole Franco situation, look, you have to, the Eurovision. Sorry, I've got to put my EBU hat here. The Eurovision is a completely non-political contest, so it's nothing to do with what Franco decided to do with the people of Spain. I just think it's one of those moments where he just decided, like, you know what? Why not? Aim high, just go for that. And you've got to remember the time that, Dali was very much modernistic and impressionist and right on top of the feel of the pulse, and all the critics you understand that are now flooding your comment system. I apologize to them. But, when you want to put the best of Spain forward, and you're thinking, how many designers, forget about the years, how many designers can you name? How many artists, how many people that do that stuff are in the public conscious? And there's not that many of them even now. I mean, the UK, can you imagine the BBC decided to have Banksy to design the Eurovision 2021 stage? Yes, please.
Spain hosting Eurovision caused one country to drop out, Austria. They said that they weren't able to organise themselves to join. But everybody suspected it was because it was being held in Franco's fascist state of Spain. But it was only one country, whereas the following year, 4 or 5 countries all decided to take a break because of what they saw as a ridiculous situation of 4 songs winning. Luke, what's your take on that?
Well, it seems strange that with Austria refusing to participate in 69 when they did give Spain votes in 68, and of course these were juries. But I thought it was when they refused to participate in 1970 because of the rules. I thought, well, I think now that maybe they're doing it on principle. But it's a song contest at the end of the day. The rule, they didn't really have the strict rules back then. I mean, of course, going back before that, between 56 and 65, you could sing in whatever language you wanted, and then they just made it clear on the language, no, you must sing in your own national language. I think the rules hadn't been decided then, and I think it's when countries started, boycotting because of this rule that they gave 4 winners the victory, right? They just thought, okay, we've got to start being a bit more stricter on rules and say we'll only get 1 winner out of this.
I think all the rules that pertain to the contest now were brought in as a result of some mishap, such as 4 winning songs in 1 year.
I think it's also fair to point out that with these earlier contests, we do not have the wealth of background information that we do in regards a broadcaster's attitude to this contest or others, because it's just not documented as much. In 40 years' time, the amount of discussion about Tel Aviv's hosting, it's all going to still be online, or we're going to be a charred nuclear wasteland, so take your pick. But Moldova will still not qualify in that case. So we don't have a huge amount of information on Austria's decision-making process, what they handled with other events, what Austrian organizations did with other events that were hosted in Spain at that time. But it's a good assumption that ORF may have wanted to enter, but none of the individual artists would have wanted to enter. So I think that's the first one. And in terms of the rules, the one thing I absolutely love about the backstage stories that you do have is the host actually asking the executive supervisor, so what do we do if there's a tie break? To be reliably informed, there will not be a tie break.
Only for the presenter then to argue with the scrutineer.
Cuatro ganadores.
Répétez, s'il vous plaît.
Le hace repetir al representante de la UER. Hay 4 ganadores, luego todos los autores de estas 4 canciones.
Yeah, and I think they were lucky that they had enough medals, because they were going to give the medals to the songwriters. And they went, how many medals have we got? 4. How many winners, people have got in first place? 4. It's a live show. That'll do. Go.
It was an odd scoring system. It's quite different to now. Instead of ranking,
I can just hear you.
It was an odd scoring system. Can you? Oh,
I'm sorry. We
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Now we'll come back to you later in the show.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Did anyone else sit there and work out how it would have actually turned out if you'd have applied some of the rules that we follow today? So, like, if you look across and you go, well, who scored the highest number of votes from a particular country? And so the Netherlands scored 6 votes from one country. So therefore, should they have got the win? Or do you go for the countries that got voted by the most countries? In which case, you'll find that Spain and France both got votes from 9 countries each. But France actually got more votes. They got 4 votes from 2 countries, whereas Spain only managed to get 3 votes from a couple.
The really surprising thing is that we were ever in this situation at all, because the previous year, the result had been won on the very final vote, and so they could have seen this coming.
I will mention on what the point we were just making about it being held in Franco, Spain, is that interestingly in '69, TVE, the broadcaster, weren't using colour broadcasting at the time, so they had to rent colour equipment from Germany.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
I think the same applied in 1971 in Ireland, and the UK lent it. And even in 1979, I think colour television was introduced to Israel for Eurovision.
And Phil, you were going to make a point about the scoring system.
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah, it was instead of ranking the countries in order, each country just had 10 to distribute as they wanted. So, some countries spread the votes around, some concentrated them on specific countries. So I think that contributed to the tie as well.
It's very easy to manipulate, wasn't it? Really, thinking about it.
To be fair, Tom, are you suggesting that they fixed the contest to be in the one place the rule book couldn't cover?
I don't know what you are possibly
Because
commenting
surely
about.
if you're going to fix it, you'd fix it so you didn't have an almighty four-way mess of a tie at the top of the score table.
No, you wouldn't. But my reference is actually to the previous year, to the previous system.
Well, the previous system has been discounted by even the people who initially started that story off. It's been debunked countless times, even by the people who initially started off. There's no evidence of it. And if you look at the programs that were actually bought by those other companies, the broadcasters, they were still buying those programs. So it's a lovely bit of fiction.
Tom, tell us what the fiction is from 1968.
The fiction is essentially that Spain may have influenced the Yugoslavian vote, as I understand it.
And how did they do that? Blackmail?
No. Do you know what? I've never actually looked at the story to see how they do it.
Because it's not true.
But you and I love a good conspiracy theory.
Well, this isn't a good conspiracy theory. It's based on by the testimony of one single journalist, Jose Inigo, who claimed that it was common knowledge, but he's the only person that ever told anybody. And the fact that the Spanish were trying to set up a deal using Bulgarian and Czech recording artists, neither of whom were a part of a country that was a member of the EBU at the time. So it's just like, well, that's great if you want to fix the contest for like Polygenova turning up in 2011, but it's not going to be much good in 1968, is it?
And indeed, and all it was a publicity stunt for the Spanish entry. Was it 2008?
Yeah, it was just... No, sorry, I can give you much better conspiracy theories. Dick Van Dyke invented the DVD player. That's why the initials are DVD. I mean, that holds more water than Franco fixing Eurovision.
But nevertheless, most things are we're moving back to Norway, and Tom and Skat.
Oh, do you know what? I'm pleased you pronounced that, because that the thing when I watched this, Andy, right? I just thought she's trying really hard. She's smiley, she's bubbly, she's got an interesting dress on. She's
dressing down
like this as she's going around like that. And I thought to myself, she tries so hard. And then I just looked her up, because I have done my homework, obviously. And I found out that she is actually quite trying. She represented Norway in 1965 and 1967, coming 13th and 14th. This was her worst one, because she came last. She came second in the Norwegian pre-selection in 1966. She got disqualified from the pre-selection in 1968 because the song was deemed to have plagiarized Cliff Richard's Summer Holiday. And then, when Norway withdrew after the 1969 contest, she topped up in Germany in their pre-selection, and she vanished without a trace. However, she has also covered both La 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 and 1971's winner on Banken aber une Rue. So she's done.
She's a trier.
Oh, she is.
That's a much better conspiracy theory, Tom.
Und jetzt vamos a Alemania, Germany, and Ewan.
Yeah, so we're back to Germany doing a false flag here, because we've got Sue Malmqvist singing here, and she's Swedish, and she sang for Sweden back in the 1960 contest as well. And the German national final that year, I think it ended up with 3 songs per performer. So the final was a German, an American, and a Swede. So, you know, they were 2/3 on to have a false flag operation here. Look, the Prima Ballerina is incredibly familiar. This is Germany just basically doing the same sort of song it's done before. It's you know, it's solidly in the yeye music tradition that you have in mainland Europe in the 60s. So you're getting echoes of Poupe de Cirque, Poupe de Son. You're getting echoes of Puppet on a String, which makes perfect sense because Puppet on a String is actually the songwriters going, we'd like to write a song like Poupe de Cirque, Poupe de Son. And they just kept that format going on for multiple years. But, you know, in the best will in the world, it is not going to be a winning Eurovision song. There's a nice bit of variation between the verses. There's a bit of playfulness in the structure. And it gets a little bit darker near the end, but it's just not quite dark enough for me. That said, it really stands up to listening again and again. It's got a couple of layers in it. It is not an immediate song, which means it's useless at the contest. But in a song that I'm happy to listen to and discover 4, 5, 6, or 7 times.
Michelle.
Can I just say, how come? Did anyone else think that she was dressed as a dental nurse? In her little uniform, she looked like a dental nurse.
It's all about uniforms for you tonight, isn't it, Michelle? We're going to move on now. Staying with Ewan.
Oh, great! More mind-blowing experiences. Hey, boom! Right, what are we up to now?
Simone de Oliveira.
Ah, yes. Portugal sending one of their big singers. And those of you who were out in Lisbon for the contest a couple of years ago, she's performing out in the Euro Village and just really enjoying the time. 69 is a return to the contest. She'd already been there in 1965. And, you know, it's, again, we've got Portugal going, we're just going to send something that's blatantly Portuguese. I mean, the song's title in English is Portuguese husking. And I'm not quite sure what husking is. It's not an Olympic sport, but it does sound quite exciting. What we've got here is we've got flamenco, we've got overpowering balladeering, we've got a bit of chanson coming through from the orchestra. There is an identity here, and quite simply, you listen to this and go, oh, that's Portugal, isn't it? I love Portugal, especially this year, where they don't care what other people are listening to. They just send stuff that represents them. And it occasionally touches on the pop music trends across the rest of the continent, but most of the time it's just, you know what? Here's a really big local star singing stuff that we like in the charts, so we'll send that off to Eurovision. If it doesn't resonate across Europe, we don't care. It finished 15th, but Simone de Oliveira is still regarded as one of the biggest stars that Eurovision has created in Portugal, and quite rightly so.
And how does everybody think that Amor pelos dois would have sat in the 1969 contest?
I was thinking Salvador was a bit, his mannerisms and the way it's pulling a face, it was all a bit Joe Cocker. And Joe Cocker was quite popular in 1969, so if they could have seen him, he might have done quite well.
Talking about a visual entry from 1969, Phil, the final entry of the year was the Finnish song. I've been singing it all day.
I'll talk you through exactly what I wrote. Finland. I thought they looked like mimes when they came off. Absolute shite. New bottom, bad outfit, bad song, nope.
A question. Did either of you two think, because I wrote down this is Viva Cantando light but darker and in a minor key.
So nothing like Viva Cantando.
Well,
I don't know what you're on about.
It had the same bounce. It was like they translated it into a minor key and turns down the frenetic that was going on in the Spanish entry.
It's just creepy. I'm sorry. The fact that he's consistently trying to lean over. They should have had 2 microphones on stage. Jarko's just kind of hovering in the background with the straw border, looking for all the world like that's what happened when the child catcher went through his teenage angsty years. It's just... And then you've got this image of whispering Ted Lowe in the background going, and now we're just waiting for the red to go behind the green, and we'll have another winner in this season of Pot Black. No, it just didn't do it for me.
In 2019, we had an hour and a half of interval, and back in Madrid, we had about 5 minutes. But what a 5 minutes was that? Did anybody actually watch it?
No.
It did seem
No,
like
you really need to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Look at Tom's eyes say it all.
Do you know what? I've written down bad Doctor Who incidental music and the shots to boot.
Michelle,
I put down. I've had to watch some proper rubbish being part of ESC Fan TV, but this beats everything. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
I thought it was like the brainwashing scene out of Clockwork Orange, where they have a is it Alex, the guy strapped down with his eyes pinned open and he's forced to watch all these images that he's brainwashing him.
Yeah. I think we're brainwashing us.
Yeah.
I only watched with one eye just in case you needed both eyes open for it to work.
I think. We've had a little poll amongst ourselves to try and split this four-way tie between Spain, United Kingdom, Netherlands and France. And I'm able to tell you that in fourth place was the Dutch entry. I think this is one of your favourites, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just something really nice about the Troubadour, and I'm pretty sure we're going to hear a fair amount over the next couple of months that go. There's just it brings in that sort of yeah music sound that you had across the mid-continent. It sounds relatively fresh, and there's just a lightness and a playfulness and a storytelling nature to this song that just really gets me. I mean, I think I was discussing before, it's, you know, for me, the Dutch song and the French song are almost neck and neck in the sort of tie breaks. And the only way I can actually come to break it is to go, well, you know, the Dutch song was earlier in the running order, or the French song. It's just really close for me deciding between those two songs. But in the end, the Netherlands just thinks it because it's a little bit happier. And I right now I'm in the mood for anything that makes me happy because the rest of the world is a bit dark and scary.
We gave that 13 points between us. We also gave the Spanish song 13 points, Viva Cantando and Viva Cantando. Tom.
Oh, bouncy, catchy. This, do you know what? I quite liked it. The trouble is, I think she was too manic. I mean, she did give the air of someone who was almost what is it when someone's almost like so enthusiastic you think that if you said I think that performance is too much, they probably would have stormed out and just walked off. She was dressed up like some kind of blue version of Big Bird as well.
The dress was made of porcelain.
Was it?
Yeah. So
I didn't rate it. But she, as I will repeat for you, it was like just didn't do it for me.
We only slightly favoured the United Kingdom, came second in our top four. It was nobody's favourite, but Luke, it was your second favourite.
That's right, and probably my favourite of the UK winners. I've got to say, Lulu. I thought, you know, she. I'm going to say a bit of a pun here. I thought she stole the world in her performance. It was catchy. It was upbeat. It was basically trying to be sort of like a mix of Puppet on a String and Congratulations. Of course, Monty Python would then take the mick out of it a couple of weeks later when they did a Bin Tiddle Bonbon. But it's got a catchy Eurovision title. It's a catchy song, and I just like Lulu.
In a Song for Europe that year, the song that came dead last was written by
Elton John.
Elton John. How do we think that would have done in Eurovision?
Well, I don't think Elton would have had a much more successful career as he did if he'd written a Eurovision entry. And who knows? We could have seen Elton we could have maybe seen Elton in '71 putting your song in for the national final. Cut down, of course.
Well, in his latest book, he slags the whole venture off completely. So he had no idea that the song had been entered. It was one of his cast-off songs. We've heard this from other songwriters as well, and he was absolutely horrified to find that it got through. And he has nothing good to say about Lulu.
Oh well, that's charming. I will mention this though. Lloyd Webber tried to pen an entry that year.
Yes.
which didn't get into the national final, and that ended up being used in Jesus Christ Superstar.
On to the winner. Our winner by a landslide was the French song. Favourite of yours?
No, it was shit.
This is the one we didn't really like.
No, we put this last.
Yeah, we thought she was stiff as a board when she was singing it.
Horrible dress. Oh, it was I put, oh my God, it was a long 3 minutes. It was drab and it was miserable. I was glad when it finished, and I put bottom for me.
To be fair, you know, it starts off very low quite, but she gave him well. She sang it, but yeah, not a cup of tea, I'm afraid.
No, this was bottom of the 4 that won.
Okay.
Have you heard ABBA's version of it?
Anya.
Yeah, and Anya did this on her before she was solo. So while Benny and Bjorn were still trying to work out how to beat Melody Festival, and I think they'd entered Melfest that year and hadn't gone anywhere. They hadn't worked out they needed to bring in some more female singers. This was sitting on Neitha's solo album, Som Jagar. So we do have an ABBA-esque cover version of this one as well. So
yeah, very beautiful, quite different.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be until the ABBA discovered glam rock that they would win Eurovision, but that, I believe, is going to be another episode.
So, saying that on ABBA, did you know in the Melody Festival of this year, 69, that both Benny, this is where Frida and Benny met?
Ah. Were they both singing?
Frida was. Benny had written the entry with Las Bergman, which came second at the Melody Festival. And Frida came 5th that year, but that's from what I was told how they both met.
Excellent. So it's been a very good year for Eurovision.
And even more interestingly, that was the first year that there was a tie in Melody Festival at the top of the table between Tommy and Jan with their songs there. So they had a runoff round in that one as well, and just told the juries vote on just those 2 songs that went 54-45 in Tommy's favour. So even more reason for the EBU to go, oh, maybe we might have a tie break.
Yes.
You know, the Swedes weren't in charge at that point, were they?
Yeah, this was a voting system that was brought back in 1974 when the BBC held the contest, because having been offered the new voting system that was introduced in 1975, they decided it was too long, nobody would stick with it to the end of the show, and so they resurrected this 10-point system for the year that ABBA won.
Yeah, and if it hadn't been, it would have been a French victory as well if they'd actually stayed in the contest. So ABBA got lucky once more.
Right, talking about today, I'm talking about 1969. I'd like you all to share the one thing that you'd like to bring forward to the contest in 2020 that you saw in 1969. Tom.
Do you know what? It's got to be the interval act. Not the interval act per
the quality
se,
or the
but
quantity?
certainly the length of it. Because quite frankly, what everyone needs is shorter intervals when it comes to Eurovision, because quite frankly, at the moment, it's stupidly excessive.
There is, of course, a rumour that Celine Dion was going to be the interval act in 2020. Would you still want it cut down to a minute?
5 minutes.
Okay.
More than enough time for a reprise of Ne partez pas sans moi, and enough time to prevent any repetition of My Heart Will Go On.
Luke, what would you bring forward to the 2020 contest?
It would have to be the orchestra. I think, you know, live music really needs to be brought back to the contest, because nowadays it's all pre-recorded backing tracks, and as I will say with what Johnny Logan said, it is karaoke. I think, you know, with the Netherlands, the country that invented the Metropolitan Orchestra, and of course, you know, for years, even when they were doing the National Song Festival after the orchestra had been abandoned, they still kept the orchestra intact. I think more countries probably could still use the orchestra, and I think you could probably get some nice arrangements out of a few 3-minute pop tunes Maybe not so much a Euphoria type one though.
But even so, strings. Can't go wrong with strings in a good pop song. I'd like to bring to have the stage complete with church organ and flower beds. We haven't seen flower beds on stage for a long time. Ewan, what about you?
I think it's just the speed of the contest, and that we don't have the 26 songs that we've got on show here. I think that year we had 16 in total. So, part of the shorter running order is that you just have the song shorter, but you get in, you get to the songs, you do the songs, you don't have all the faffing around, you've got 5-minute interval act, and then you get all the points out. There are a few more logistics that you have to put in place for that to happen nowadays, in terms of when you start the voting count and everything. But the fact here that the Spanish broadcaster didn't feel the need to spend an hour and a half going, look at us, we're wonderful, look at all these things we can do. They just went, we're here to judge the songs, they're the songs, let's judge them, go. Just that snappiness, that fast pace. To have a TV show in the 60s feel faster paced than a show in the 21st century, to me, just feels intrinsically wrong.
Yes, I'd agree with that. And the way that the songs handed over one from another was seamless.
Yeah, and of course, it's the Dutch that invented the postcards in 1970. So thanks.
And that was to cover up for the fact that there were only 12
that
songs.
there were 4 missing.
Yeah. Michelle and Phil, what would you like to see in the 2020 competition?
For me, it was the complete lack of a green room, because that's another thing where there's a lot of filler with nothing really going on. The only disadvantage to that was if we didn't have a green room in 2019, we wouldn't have seen John Ludwig's face at the end.
And I think from 1969 we should bring back bloody great big sculptures on the stage so that you've got something to look at instead of the people that are singing. It's like you're trying to you sort of half listening to the song and then going, what the hell is it supposed to be? I think we should do that.
Well, if they will be able to bring that back because it's in the garden of the TV studios in Madrid, even now.
Is it? Oh, they could just wheel it back in. It'd be brilliant. But also, I like with Luke saying about the orchestra. I'd love to have seen Hard Rock Hallelujah with an orchestra.
How can people join ESC Fan TV? Where will they find us and how can they watch?
Well, obviously, back in 1969, we would have accepted postcards if you included and you put them into a self-stamped addressed envelope.
Stuck down envelope.
Stuck down envelope.
Addressed envelope.
To PO Box. Anyway, fortunately, these days things are far much more simpler. And you can join us on Facebook. You can join us on Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to tune into YouTube as well. Plus, also, you'll find our podcasts on iTunes, on Spotify, and on Stitcher.
Thank you all very much for joining us on RETROVISION 1969. The next RETROVISION will be another contest with the 2 songs at one. We'll be going to 1991. That will be an evening to look forward to. I'd like to
captured by a love story.
Mr. Neff. Well, yeah, Mr. Clifford Brown, Mr. Neff, Mr. Neff. Thank you to my wonderful team of panelists. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you, Ewan. Luke Davies, thank you very much indeed. Glad you joined us for the first time. Thank you. Phil and Michelle, thank you. You've been stars, as always.
Andy.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then, of course, we'd have if somebody gets a wrong note, there'd be whole disquiet about, somebody's obviously nobbled the orchestra for this song.
And I'm just going to fill some air because whilst we are recording, it's hopefully not escaped your attention that Andy seems to have dropped off the signal.
That's what happens when you mention Franco and the Revolution.
Is this when we say things about Andy because he's not here?
Well, he will be downloading it and editing it, Michelle. So I think now would be an opportune moment to say what a lovely person he is.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Andy's well aware of my opinion of him.
I've got a spare Buzz Lightyear action figure. We could use that, pretend to be Andy. He was kind of in the middle of the screen, wasn't he?
Did you steal that off Monaco?
Well, he's owned by Andy.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, yes, because he's got Andy written on his foot. Fix that in CGI, folks. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
I know, but I haven't. Although I am a trophy wife, Phil's paying for it.